Good morning. You see, there was this Irishman. He moves into a tiny hamlet in County Kerry, walks into a pub, and promptly orders 3 beers. The bartender raises his eyebrows, but serves the man the 3 beers, and he sits by himself and drinks them alone. Then he orders 3 more. As this continued every day, the bartender asked him politely, "The folks around here are wondering why you order 3 beers." He said, "Yes, I guess that is interesting, isn't it? You see, I have 2 brothers. One moved to America, and one moved to Australia. We promised each other that we always have an extra 2 beers in honor of each other when we had a drink. Then one day, the man comes in and orders only 2 beers. This continued for several days. Then the bartender approached him with a little tear in his eye and said, "The folks around here are sad and offer our condolences for the death of your brother." The man replies, "Well, that's not really what happened. You'll be happy to know my 2 brothers are alive and well. It's just that I decided to get out drinking for Lent, so now I'm just drinking for the other 2. Do you know anybody like that? On the second Sunday of Lent, in each lectionary cycle, the Gospel readings proclaims the story of Jesus' transfiguration. The event is reported in each of the synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. This year we hear Mark's report of this event, the transfiguration, the transformation of Jesus. The common theme of today's readings is that to challenge how to deal with metamorphosis of transformation, especially during this Lenten season. Just as Jesus' transfiguration strengthened the apostles in their time of trial, each Holy Mass can be our source of heavenly strength against temptations and our own renewal during the Lenten season. The transfiguration in the Holy Mass can be a source of our strength. In each Mass, the bread and wine we offer on the altar are transformed into the crucified and the risen, the living body and blood of Jesus by transubstantiation. As we continue our Lenten journey, we might ask ourselves, how do I want to transform my life? If I want to take the theme for today's Gospel and the 2 readings, how might I transform my own life? My mother was a wonderful woman. She was very devout, Irish Catholic, and very proud of her roots and her faith. Faith and family were everything to her. And growing up in a small town in northeast Iowa, one of the things that she would encourage us to do during Lent was to focus on, during Lent, on the body, our mind, and our soul. To give up or do something, focusing on each of those 3, our body, our mind, and our soul. So for the benefit of our body today, what might we try to do or to give up? Do we have any bad habits that we know we should try to reduce or actually eliminate, like smoking or drinking, or eating too much, or driving too fast, or leaving messes wherever we go, or laziness, or shopping too much, or gambling too much? Think about what we usually spend our money on. Do we buy too many clothes, too many gadgets, too many shoes, or maybe unnecessary big items, fancy tools, campers, fishing gear, expensive jewelry, or other impulse buying items? Think about a habit that has kept us from being who God is calling us to be. Are any of our bad habits part of that limitation? Are we able to consciously give up that habit during this Lenten season? But transformations also occur in pursuing positive actions and attitudes, not just giving up, but doing something special. Maybe we can decide to exercise on a regular basis, like going on a hike or a long walk with our dog, if we have a dog. This might sound familiar, as maybe it was one of our New Year's resolutions that we set 7 weeks ago and already have failed at. Or we can think about eating healthier foods or avoiding fast foods altogether. Pick one type of expenditure that you'll fast from during Lent, and then give that money over to a local charity, or especially to here at Christ the King, like one of our ministries, the Walking with Moms in Need, or the Hope, our food pantry. Second, for the benefit of our mind, what might we pursue during Lent to strengthen our mind, be clearer about our emotions? By reading more and watching less TV, by limiting the use of our tablets, laptops, and cell phones, or cutting back on social media and playing board games with our family. Imagine having less screen time and more person-to-person time. Or by reducing our temper tantrums when other drivers tick us off, or yelling at our children or grandchildren. The third, for the benefit of our soul, what might we want to do to transform our lives to benefit our soul? Through increasing our prayer life, by making a commitment to read the Sunday scriptures before Sunday Mass, or trying a new spiritual practice like signing up for an hour for Eucharistic adoration next door at St. Peregrine's Shrine. We could take on something special, maybe 40 days of letter writing, or 40 acts of kindness, or 40 phone calls to important people in our lives, or to attend the Stations of the Cross that we have here every Friday night during Lent at 6:30 in English. We could unplug from our iPhone or turn off our car radio as we commute. The silence might be very jarring at first, but we might find that we're able to concentrate better and be more prepared for our tasks at hand upon our arrival. Or we could spend at least one afternoon or evening volunteering during Lent. If we feel comfortable volunteering in person, we could help package and distribute food boxes at Hope, our parish food pantry, or other ministries here at our church. Or if we don't like going out and we'd rather do it on our own, we could rather volunteer. We might reach out to our parish to see how our skills might help those in one of the other communities, and what we could do by phone or prayer or other practices. Or we could make a commitment to fast from insensitive, cruel comments to and about others. Or maybe avoid gossiping and going down the Twitter rabbit hole. I recently read a true story of a powerful transformation. Dr. Peggy Hartshorn is president of Heartbeat International. She tells the dramatic story about a woman who glimpsed the mystery of her unborn child. The young woman was seeking an abortion. She simply could not handle having a baby at that time, but she agreed to an ultrasound. When the baby appeared on the screen, the woman was amazed to see the perfectly formed body, the little legs and arms moving inside her womb. But the woman kept saying, "No, no, I can't do this. I must have an abortion." Dr. Hartshorn felt sad. She knew that 75% of the women who see the fetus with ultrasound decide to keep the baby. 25% do not. She thought this might be a woman of one of those 25% who wouldn't be able to do so. All of a sudden, her assistant said, "Reach out and touch your baby's hand." Dr. Hartshorn thought, what is she saying that? But the woman raised her hand and touched the monitor. As by some divine cue, the baby reached out her arm to the exact place where her mom's womb's hand. On the screen, the tiny fingers met hers. She ended up keeping that baby and raised her to adulthood. Transformation can be on a large scale, like this one, or it can be on a very small scale. But whatever we do and however they occur, they can obviously change our lives and those that we love. Usually, when I know deacons preach the last weekend of the month, and usually I work a week ahead preparing, pulling the ideas together. I'm ready 1 or 2 days before. And then I saw what the day was and what significance this date had, so I have to add something. 2 years ago today, millions of Ukrainian men, women, and children had their lives upended as war began. Russian troops invaded Ukraine, killing over 10,000 innocent civilians since the war started, and 3 times that number are wounded. The number of Ukrainian soldiers killed is over 20,000, and the number of Russian soldiers killed and wounded and captured is even much higher. Many of those men who were in the Ukraine were members of the Knights of Columbus, which has had a council there for over a decade. The U.S. government response, as well it should be, as well as the other NATO nations and allies, provided weapons to support their fight against the Russians. They provided rocket systems, grenade launchers, small arms, ammunition, tanks, radar equipment, missile systems, and intelligence equipment. And the U.S. military trained the Ukrainians on how to use those. That's one response. On the other hand, the Knights of Columbus have stepped forward in both Ukraine and Poland to provide coats, gloves, warm clothing, boots, and other winter survival equipment for the civilians still stuck in Ukraine. The Knights of Poland have also opened their homes to thousands of Ukrainian refugees. The role of the Knights is is different than military as it should be, but when you think of how we transform, daily transformations or huge transformations, this is an example of a huge transformation. How do we help civilians protect themselves from such evil? The Knights in the U.S. have raised more than $20 million to open mercy centers in Poland that provide shelter to orphans and widows and to fight human trafficking. They also aid the safe transportation protection of civilian women and children. So when we think about the difference between those two types of transformation, how do we respond to that? How do we perceive that as we think of a transformation on a small scale or on a large scale? Many of you know that I work with Native American moms and dads. That's my full-time job. And when I work with parents, I try to give them information and articles that can inspire them as parents. One of my favorite actually is entitled Transfiguration in Children. If a child lives with criticism, he learns to condemn. If a child lives with hostility, she learns to fight. If a child lives with ridicule, he learns to be shy. If a child lives with shame, she learns to feel guilty. If a child lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If a child lives with encouragement, she learns confidence. If a child lives with praise, he learns to appreciate. If a child lives with fairness, she learns justice. If a child lives with security, she learns to have faith. If a child lives with approval, she learns to like herself. If a child lives with acceptance and friendship, they will learn to find love in the world. Christ's transfiguration gives us the message of encouragement and of hope. In the moments of doubt and during our dark moments of despair and hopelessness, of pain and suffering, as we deal with during Lent, what can we think about? How can we take that pain? How can we shape that and decide we're going to transform ourselves and our perception of that in a positive way, especially through our faith? Let us offer our Lenten sacrifices to the Lord so that through these practices of Lent and through the acceptance of our daily crosses, we might grow closer to Christ.